She continued, "You can hear her through the wall. He over there beating the hell out of this girl." The 911 report goes on to say another witness saw Amara run through the parking lot to another apartment without shoes on, wearing a white memorial t-shirt for her son, and appeared to be bleeding from the mouth. It is stated in the report that witness told investigators they saw Weazel drag Amara back to the apartment. "Then I heard her screaming some more, and the last thing she said was like, 'Please don't kill me,' and then it just got silent." Lee said she didn't see the police that night.
According to the criminal complaint, the last time family saw Amara Banks and her daughters Sanaya and Kamaria is when they dropped her off at her apartment on North Sherman around 1 in the morning, Saturday, February the 8th. Shortly after, neighbor Belta Lee said loud noises woke her up.
And I heard like some loud thumping on my wall, and I heard a lady screaming. So I jumped up, and I hear her screaming, "No, no, help me, help me." So I dialed 911.
The complaint goes on to say another witness saw Amara Banks run through the parking lot to another apartment without shoes on and appeared to be bleeding from the mouth. Investigators say the witness told them they then saw Ivory drag Amara back to the apartment.
And then I heard her screaming some more. And then the last thing she said was like, "Please don't kill me." And then it just got silent.
The 911 operator, Kristen St. Pierre, typed into the Milwaukee Police Department's dispatching system the information from Belta Lee, the witness. She left out key information. An internal investigation was initiated by the police department that later determined that because of the missing key information, officers were slow to arrive and unclear on where the screaming was coming from. They drove through the complex with their windows rolled down and then parked their car for 10 minutes to watch for any suspicious activity. They never left their squad car. Because of these 3 murders, the homicide detectives looked deeper into Weazel Ivory Jr.'s death. He was 21 months old. Weazel had had a history of asthma, which his mother meticulously monitored. Police and medical examiners' reports described what happened the last day of his life. On January 23, 2020, Amara was home with her 3 children. Weazel had been staying with them after a fire at his apartment. Amara noticed her son displaying some symptoms. She had plans with her sister that night. As she left, she told Weazel to watch their son closely to see if his condition worsened. Amara stayed overnight at her sister's house and went directly to work the next morning. Weazel got the children ready for school to attend. The girls went to school as usual. Weazel called off work and spent the day with his son, later telling detectives the child had some trouble breathing, but it was not anything unusual, according to a police report. Around 3 p.m., Weazel put his son, who was making slow gasping sounds, in the car and drove to pick up the girls. By the time he arrived, the boy was slumped against the door. At the girls' school, an employee told Weazel to take the child to a hospital. Instead, Weazel drove around for an hour and stopped to buy snacks before finally heading to Columbia St. Mary's Hospital. By then, Weazel had stopped breathing. He did not have a pulse. Medical staff notified Milwaukee police of the boy's sudden death, and homicide detectives interviewed Weazel and Amara, who had left work, after Weazel had called to tell her he was at the hospital. Detectives had asked Amara about any violence at home or if her son had been injured recently. She replied, no. There had been violence before, she told the detectives, but that was years ago. In 2018, Weazel was arrested in a domestic violence case involving Amara. Prosecutors did not file charges against him for that incident. The arrest. Weazel was initially charged with aggravated battery, but later faced intentional homicide charges. Weazel pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and received a $750,000 cash bond.
Police charged Weazel Ivory in connection to the death of the 3. He was Banks' boyfriend. His bond was set at $750,000.
The trial. Friday, April 30th, 2021. About a year later, Weazel pled guilty to killing Amara and her daughters, Kamaria and Sanaya, which was 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide.
Weazel Ivory is charged in the deaths of Amara Jerica Banks and her 2 daughters, Kamaria Banks and Sanaya Ivory. The criminal complaint says Ivory killed the 3 in February of 2020 and tried hiding their bodies in a garage near 47th Street in Burleigh. Ivory has now pleaded guilty to 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. He will be sentenced in July.
Sentencing. In September 2020, it was determined that Arzel's plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease/defect would not be supported. In July 2021, Arzel was sentenced to life in prison without parole, with a judge calling his crimes horrendous.
For the first time on Friday, Banks' brother confronted Ivory in court.
How dare you be a callous, cold, and evil person to do this? Evil is being sentenced here today, and that evil is you.
Hilarious spinner Banks also spoke directly to the...
How dare you do this to us? How dare you rip out all of our hearts? I felt like I had to address him. We just couldn't understand, why he did this.
Facing a mandatory life sentence, the only question was whether Ivory would ever be eligible for parole. He read a brief statement.
I know what I did has affected the world. I know I can't change anything by what I say, but I am truly sorry, and I regret everything I did.
Judge Stephanie Rothstein questioned the sincerity of Ivory's remorse and ruled that he should never again be free, sentencing him to life without the possibility of parole.
Today was an ending, but there's still no closure. Justice was served, but there's no closure.
I'm speaking on behalf of the family of Amara Banks, whom we call Jerica. I'm speaking on behalf of parents Adlin and Valeria, they're behind me. And I'm speaking on behalf of Jerica's brother, David Fields. If you know someone facing domestic violence or suffering through it, make the call for help. Get the help we wish Jerica had. Ask for it, it will be given. People have asked if we can find some place in our hearts to forgive. As a family of deep faith, we believe in God, a God of many mercies. If Arzel Ivory would like mercy, it is God's to give.
If I may, you could have just addressed the court, but you spoke emotionally and powerfully directly to Arzel